Just a few days ago, President Biden signed into law a $1.7 trillion spending bill, and that's going to have a great impact upon Social Security, Medicare, as well as retirement accounts. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how that's going to impact you. I want to begin by explaining how this bill is going to have an impact upon the Social Security Administration and the services that you and I get through those offices. So here's what's going on. Of that $1.7 trillion, this bill allotted $14.1 billion just for the Social Security Administration. And the reason for that is there is a very serious customer service crisis going on right now. They are not able to deliver the services they need to in a timely fashion. And so this is, of course, causing a lot of frustration. We see in our business now, we used to be able to do Medicare applications within 7 to 10 days, and now it's taking at least 30 days to do that. Social Security applications could be done used to in 30 days, and now we're seeing sometimes 60 and 90 days out of some of the field offices. So this is truly a customer service crisis going on, and that's why Social Security needed some additional funding. So here's what's going. Right now, the staffing presently is at a 25-year low. Now, some of that is due to the pandemic, some of it is due to a hiring freeze, and just simply because this is really what's going on in our country. Most employers are having difficulty being properly staffed. So right now, a 25-year low. And why that matters is because the Social Security budget has also decreased in the last 10 years by 17%. And so you would think it would be increasing, but it has not. It's been going down. At the same time, beneficiaries coming onto Social Security and coming into Medicare have increased by 21%. And that's why Congress approved this substantial amount of money for the Social Security Administration for this coming year. Now, let's talk more about this. This is the reality of some of the customer service issues that are going on right now. First off, customer service wait times really are way beyond where they should be. In fact, they say that just 5 years ago, if you called in the Social Security office, your wait time was on the average of about 3 to 4 minutes, and you had someone that was going to answer your questions and give you the service you needed. Today, it is 34 minutes average wait time. So 5 years ago, 3 to 4 minutes, now 34 minutes. So 10 times the wait time. And they also say that as people call in, 1 out of every 3 people that call into Social Security do not get their phone call answered. So only 2 or 3 people are being serviced. Interestingly enough, just a year ago, they said that 1 in 5 people did not get an answer. So now 1 year later, 1 in 3 people. So a tremendous drop in the ability for them to deliver services through the phone. And then this one right here is very, very sad, and that is this: Social Security application wait times. As I said in our own business, we help people get on Medicare. We're now waiting at least twice as long for those applications to go through Social Security. Again, it used to be 30 days, and now it's 60 to 90 days, and sometimes even beyond that. And we're experiencing that. But one of the saddest things of all issues for Social Security application wait times are for those that actually are applying for disability. Right now, this is a stat from November, this just a couple months ago. In November, it was taking the average disability application to go through 7 months. 7 months before those people would get an answer. Just a couple years ago, the average time was 4 months. Okay, so now it's 7 months before they get an answer. And sometimes that answer is no, and that means that people have to appeal. And so when someone gets a no, we're not going to approve your disability application, and they go through the appeal process, on average now, they have to wait 1 full year in addition just to get an appointment to see if they can get a rehearing. So 1 year beyond that. And they say that in about almost 200 of the field offices around the country, some of those appeals are not addressed for a year and a half. And so it's very sad now people applying for disability are waiting a long period of time. In fact, they say right now that on the average, about 1,000 people die every month having a pending disability application. Okay, so they needed that money and they passed away before they even got a decision. So we're hoping that this $14.1 billion allotted Social Security is going to help drastically improve this customer service that the Social Security Administration is delivering. If you're watching this video, that means that you probably have some decisions about Medicare that you're going to have to make. We upload 3 videos every week so that you'll have the information and the education that you need to make right Medicare decisions and avoid getting stuck with penalties and bad coverage. To make sure that you don't miss out on any of these crucial topics, click the subscribe button below, then turn on notifications. Have a blessed day. Now, secondly, I want to talk about the impact that this new legislation is going to have upon retirement savings accounts. In fact, I think this article here summed it up very well. It says this new law includes a package of provisions collectively called the Secure Act 2.0. and this will expand workers' access to retirement plans and older Americans' ability now to contribute to and maintain such accounts. And so what they're saying is that there has been some legislation in 2019 and 2020 that is already on the books and it's already enacted, but they improved upon that. They added to that. So let's go back and just do a quick review of this thing called the Secure Act. It again started in 2019 and expanded in 2020. And this Secure Act is actually an acronym that's very long called Setting Every Community Up for Retirement Enhancement. So when this act became law, here are the reasons they were doing this. Number one, because they wanted people that were older than 70.5 to be able to contribute to the retirement accounts. Why? Because people are living longer and they want to save more money. And so this Secure Act originally in 2019 allowed those longer contributions, and of course that is going to continue on. Also, this act pushed the RMDs to age 72. RMD is called the required minimum distribution. This is the minimum amount that you have to take out of any kind of tax-deferred account once you hit a certain age. It was 70.5, and for some people it still is. They pushed that then to 72, and now we're going to see that being pushed out to 75. I'll explain here in just a minute. Now, number three, when people are in retirement, they certainly would like to have guaranteed income, and that's the beauty of Social Security. But in addition to that, annuities give people that guaranteed monthly income as well. And so what happened with this original act in 2019, employers were able to include annuities in their retirement plans. And so there's been some enhancement to that as well. And so what that simply means is that if that retirement plan includes an annuity and someone were to leave that company and go to another employer, they get to take that annuity with them. All right, so that's the beauty of that. And then fourthly here, it will be easier from this act for companies to offer retirement plans. And the reason for that is because small businesses sometimes don't want to incur the expense of putting and setting up these 401k, 403b plans. And so what they did is they made it easier for this to happen by allowing small businesses to get together and actually collaborate, and those are called multi-employer plans. And so they get to work together, and that keeps the cost down, able to defray some of those administrative costs. Plus, as smaller companies do this, they're able to get a $500 tax credit every year to be able to set that account up when they begin a new account. So that was nice with this particular act. And then lastly here, part-time workers in this act now are eligible for retirement plans. The way it was up until 2019, the only people that were eligible by law were those that were working for 1,000 hours a year at least. So that would be basically, not quite full-time, but they had to be over 1,000 hours before they were eligible to contribute to the company's 401k or 403b plan. Well, this law expanded that to part-time workers, and they have to be working for at least 500 hours a year. And now after 3 years of being employed, then they're able to contribute to that 401k plan. And so the point is that law did that. And then again, that is enhanced as well through the 2023. They're going to reduce that period of time. All right. So that's what this act is all about. And then lastly, significant reductions to what are called stretch IRAs. Now, what this means is if someone dies and they have an IRA, they're going to leave that to their heirs. That's called an inherited IRA. And so what happens is up until this particular legislation, someone could take that inherited IRA and they could stretch that out for their lifetime. And so those distributions were very minimal. Which meant the government wasn't, getting their tax money. So part of this act in 2019 was to bring that limit in. And so now when someone inherits an IRA, now keep this in mind, other than a living spouse, somebody that has a disability or is chronically ill, or is a minor child, those four people can still stretch out their IRAs. But everyone else that's inheriting an IRA has to take those distributions over a 10-year period of time. And so that allows the government then, of course, to get their tax money earlier, and that was the whole purpose of this. And so stretch IRA rules were changed. All right, so that's what happened originally in 19 and then 20. So with this new legislation, now we have the Secure Act 2.0, which went into effect in December 29, now giving further enhancements to that original act. So here's what's happening. This act is replacing what is called the Saver's Credit. And what this was basically a tax break for people that had low income and low assets, and so they get a tax break. And so instead of tax break now, what they're doing is they're replacing that with a federal matching contribution. Now, this is not going to go into effect until 2027, but it will be like an employer match contribution. The government's going to do it. At this point in time, it's set at a $1,000 limit. Someone saves, the government's going to match that. And more and more people are going to qualify for that than what did just for this saver's credit. So we believe that to be an improvement for retirement accounts. Secondly, this new legislation requires that most employers, now keep this in mind, what I mean by this statement is most employers that offer 401ks and 403b plans, in other words, they offer these deferred type plans, they have to they'll be required to automatically enroll their employees into those plans. So if they have one available, it has to be an automatic enrollment. And the reason for that is because there have been studies done that if someone has this automatic enrollment option, then 3 times more people will stay in those plans, enroll in those plans, and stay in those plans than those that get to make just that election on their own. And so they are trying to encourage people to do so. So this forcing employers to automatically enroll people is going to improve participation. Now, again, an employee can always opt out of that. They're not going to be required to do that. It's just the employers are required to make this automatic enrollment a possibility. So people can have these savings. Okay, and then notice also, and then this law requires annual increases to their contribution, meaning that these employers are going to have to raise what they'll contribute. In other words, usually they'll match maybe 3 or 5% or whatever number they do, and they're going to have to increase those on an annual basis to make those 401ks really more favorable for people. All right, and so again, that will come into effect in 2025. Okay, so really a great improvement as far as the employees are concerned because these mandates to the employers. All right, number 3. Now requires employers to allow part-time workers to join sooner. Remember what I said, the original law, before the Secure Act, you had to be working 1,000 hours a year or more to be able to even contribute. They changed that to 500 hours a year more, but you had to be working for 3 years. Now, a part-time worker only has to be working 2 years, and then they have the right to be a part of the 401k plan, the 403b plan. All right, so they've made that a little bit sooner so people can start saving quicker. And then also, RMDs are now being pushed to 75. Remember, the original act pushed it to 72, and now it's out to 75. But notice, very important, this is going to be kind of a phase-in period of time. So we don't have all the details on that just yet, but it's going to be over a 10-year period of time. We're going to push these RMDs out, and I'm going to explain those to you here in just a second as far as what the RMD amounts are and when it is that someone qualifies to have to take them at 7.5, at 72, and then we'll learn more about the 75 age in the future. All right, and then also they're going to raise the limits on the catch-up contributions for some people, ages 60 to 63. Catch-up simply means this. This is someone that is 50 years old and above. They're able to put an additional amount of money in to that 401k, that 403b plan. Maybe they weren't saving when they were 30, 35, or 40, and now the government says, hey, now you're getting close to retirement. We want you to be able to put some additional money in. Anyone above 50 can add more money, and so what they're going to do, they're going to raise those limits. Again, we don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet. Again, it's not going to start until 2025, and it'll be for this specific group of people to encourage them to save more money as they approach retirement age. All right, and then lastly, they're going to establish what is called a National Lost and Found Database for retirement accounts. And the reason for this is because people change employers. They may change 3 or 4 employers during their lifetime or more. And so if they're contributing these plans and they leave, the government wants to make sure that they have this database so they can go back and they know exactly how that fund is doing, what that account balance is, and so they're able to be able to track those down. In other words, they don't want people to lose track of these different retirement accounts that are available to these employers. So they have this national database they're going to make available so people can stay on top of those funds. All right, so the whole point is this. There are some wonderful changes that have occurred because of this Secure Act 2.0. Now let's talk about specifically about required minimum distributions, because obviously this law had an impact upon those, and so I want you to be current for the 2023 contributions for those of you that are still able to put money into these these accounts. So first off, required minimum distribution means the minimum amount of money that you have to take out. And if you don't take out this minimum amount, the very least that the government says, then you're going to be penalized. All right, and so your required minimum distribution amounts are based upon your age, when you have to start them, and how much you should be taking out. Because remember, you put the money in pre-tax, the government didn't get any taxes on that, on the money you put in as well as the earnings. So now they're saying, now it's time for you to start taking distributions. It's time for you to start paying taxes. And if you don't take out this minimum amount, then they're going to charge you that penalty. All right, so here's the way it's going to work. Anyone that's born on or after July 1, 1949, right? So this again goes back to that original Secure Act in 2019. RMDs now are at age 72. So you're going to have to take your RMD the year you turn 72, or if you turn later in the year, then it would be April 1 of the following year. But the point is, we've got to start these RMDs at age 72 if our birthday's after that date. Now, anyone born before July 1, which means you were born June 30th prior, then your RMDs were still subject to that original law of 70.5. You've got to start those by the year you turn 70.5 by the next April 1st. All right, so we got to do that. Now, if we miss an RMD, we just didn't take it out, or we didn't take the right amount out, then we're going to be penalized. Actually, this is the highest IRS penalty that exists, and it's a 50% penalty. So if you were supposed to take out, let's say $5,000 of an RMD, and you did not do that, not only once you realize the mistake, or the government audits it and realize your mistake, not only do you have to take that RMD immediately of $5,000, but they're going to add a $2,500 penalty to that. And that's going to get people's attention for sure. And that's why they put that step penalty. They want you to take the RMDs. You have to. If not, you're going to have that penalty. Now, let's say that someone should have taken out $5,000, but they only took out $3,000. Well, they're $2,000 short, so they owe the $2,000 plus a 50% penalty. So now they're going to owe $3,000 in penalty. So that's why we want to make sure that we're taking them out the right amounts as well as the right time. And now, as we saw with this new legislation, RMDs is going to be pushed to age 75. And again, this is going to be a phase-in, so we'll learn more about that here in the future. But the point is, now people are going to be able to push those off to a later date as they continue to work and they really don't need the money. They're going to be able to do that. All right, so that's a very nice feature. Now, I also want to talk about your contributions. What can you put in to these 401k and 403b plans? And so the government sets limits. These have been raised for 2023. We want to make sure that you're up to date on this so you're taking full advantage of these accounts. So number one, the employee, that's you, the worker, can contribute in 2023 up to $22,500. Now keep this in mind. You can never put more in than your earned income from that employer, but you can put up to $22,500 this next year, which is an increase over 2022. In addition to that, if you're at 50 plus, remember we have the catch-up provision and encouraging people to be sure they're going to have enough money for retirement. The government allows anyone 50 and above to put in an extra $7,500, which means what? 2023, if you're 50 and above, you can put an additional $30,000 in that 401k, that 403b plan, or into a thrift savings plan. Any of those kind of plans like that, you're going to be able to take care of. Now, 401k just simply means it's an employer plan that's for profit. This would be for nonprofit 403bs as well as school districts. And then TSP, of course, is for those that are in the federal government. So all those would apply with these particular maximums. Now, in addition to this, there are some times when you're not the only one saving. This would be the saver limits, but your employer is also putting into the plan, and there's some maximums that apply to that as well. So you'd be real clear on this. So if your employer is also contributing, the most together that you can put in, this would be a combined deferred type comp plan, would be $66,000. That means that employer could put as much as $43,500 in that plan as well. And so again, you got to keep in mind this includes the extra $7,500 here. They'll allow you to do that if you're playing catch up. So we got the $66,000 plus the $7,500. So again, that employer can put up to $43,500, and you could put up an additional $30,000 in that account. So that'd be the max, and keep in mind, never more than what your earned income is. That would be certainly the limit putting into those plans. All right, so that's the impact that this legislation has upon the retirement account. So very important to note that.
Hey, my name is Marvin Musick, and if you've been enjoying my dad Marvin Musick's content, you really need to go to our website, MedicareSchool.com. When you go there, you'll be given the opportunity to download a free 1-hour Medicare Essentials workshop, and it's going to take you all the way from Medicare A to Z. By the time you're done watching that workshop, you're going to know how to enroll in Medicare, when to enroll in Medicare. You're going to know the differences between Advantage plans, supplemental plans. You're going to know how to get drug coverage. You're going to know everything you need to know to get the best coverage possible. So go ahead, go to MedicareSchool.com and watch the Medicare Essentials workshop.
All right, that brings us then to the third and final aspect that this legislation is going to have that I'd like to cover in this video, and that is its impact upon Medicare. And there's actually 3 different areas where Medicare is going to be impacted that you need to be aware of. And the first one has to do with telehealth. And so what happened was there were some expansions with telehealth because of the pandemic, starting with the COVID. And so all the telehealth options were improved, really increased. And so all those expansions now are going to extend into the end of 2024. So now we have 2 full years to really benefit from these expansions. All right. And so let's talk about that specifically. Well, prior to the pandemic, they said that about less than 20% of all people were actually even able to see their doctor remotely. So only 1 out of 5 doctors even had that as an option. And primarily it were those people that serviced rural communities where it's difficult for people, especially those that had disabilities, to be able to get to their doctor. And so those people were able to have some type of telehealth service. Again, it was limited. And another reason it was limited, there weren't many participants, many providers that made it available, but also Medicare required that that visit have an audio as well as a video feature, meaning there had to be some way to be able to have an internet connection so the doctor could actually meet with someone face to face, of course, in a video conference. Well, if you didn't have good internet access, that was not even a possibility. So not only did we have limited providers offering this, but we also had this difficulty of including audio. They couldn't just do it over the phone. Well, when the pandemic hit, Medicare eased their rules in all this, and they said, okay, now it can be a phone-only type visit. And then because of that, now 2 out of 3 providers offer these visits by phone. So we have this telehealth huge expansion of service, all right? And many people use that. In fact, they say right now that people that are 75 and above, 75% of those people have actually had a telehealth type of a visit. So very, very popular today, and we're glad these have been expanded into 2024. And again, by phone only, the requirement for audio as well as video has been removed through the end of 2024. So that's a very, very nice feature. Secondly, what Medicare is doing through this legislation is they're going to expand again and extend all these things that happen as a result of what's called hospital at home, or this would be hospital without walls, another name of the same program. And so let me just read this to you because I think this does a very good job of describing what happened with this legislation. This hospital home benefit is called the Acute Hospital Care at Home, the Acute Hospital Care at Home Initiative. And it was launched in November 2020, which allowed Medicare certified hospitals to treat patients with inpatient level care at home. All right. And so again, because of the pandemic, hospitals were overloaded, and also when people go to the hospital, they would be even exposed to more problems because of COVID and different things. And so what Medicare did is they began to allow hospitals to participate in this program, and they had very really strict rules for participating, but some of the very, very stringent rules, some of those were waived. And so hospitals were able to apply to be able to participate in treating patients at home. In other words, the same care that was provided in the hospital, the same level of care was also now available at home. And of course, there were a lot of rules and a lot of built-in accountability features that came with this program. But the point is now this will continue on. And so there are a lot of people who will be able to take advantage of this for the hospitals that actually participate in that particular program. So we're glad. We think this is a wonderful thing that is now possible. Now, the third benefit that Medicare provides that's impacted by this legislation would be behavioral health. This would be people that have been diagnosed with maybe depression, anxiety, some type of maybe schizophrenia or something, and they're in need of some behavioral health type of care. And so what this legislation did, notice here, it increased the number and types of providers that are going to be able to provide behavioral health and be reimbursed for their services through Medicare. So up until this legislation, here was a list of those that could be reimbursed by Medicare, meaning Medicare recipients could go to these kind of providers. First of all, psychiatrist, a clinical psychologist, clinical social workers, clinical nurse specialists, nurse practitioners, and physician assistants. And anyone who participated in original Medicare B, if that Medicare beneficiary wanted to go to any of these providers, they were able to get their services, and those providers, of course, would be reimbursed by Medicare. So what they're doing with this legislation, they're expanding the types of providers that are going to be able to see Medicare beneficiaries. And specifically, what they're doing is they're adding to that list those that provide marriage and family therapy, as well as licensed professional counselors. They too will be able to be reimbursed by Medicare for the services that they provide for Medicare beneficiaries. And again, the whole goal is to make sure that people have the behavioral health issues and they need care and attention, that they're going to have more providers that they can see and therefore work through some of those issues and problems that they have. So these are the impacts that this legislation has had upon Medicare, upon Social Security, and of course, your retirement accounts.